Turns out that the third time is not the charm when it comes to the No Kings protest. Today was their lowest turnout yet, but don't just take my word for it. Listen to how they attempted to spin the diminishing returns on MS Now.
But in fact, the spread of this may be more important than the density. The idea that there are, by organizers' estimates, more than 3,300 of these places, which means it's not just the cities and it's not just the coast. The majority of them will be outside of major centers.
Yeah, you saw that tiny crowd right there, and they're attempting to spin it as if, oh, it's more important that there are more physical protests across the country versus the actual size, the actual turnout at these protests. That tells you everything you need to know about how today went. They were definitely disappointed. MS Now has been promoting today's protests all week, so you can only imagine how let down they must be. The same spin is also happening at the Washington Post. They write, No Kings protests draw crowds with record number taking place across the U.S. So again, the focus here is on how many protests are actually taking place versus how large these crowds, how large these protests actually are. And I think the greatest case study of this is Bill Nye, the science guy. So in October of last year, Bill Nye was one of the keynote speakers at the No Kings protest in Washington, D.C. You can see here he's on the main stage. He's behind the bulletproof glass as he's speaking. So how did the No Kings protest with Bill Nye go today in Washington, D.C.? Well, he was on an overpass. Yeah, that's right. Take a look.
Ultimately, to keep us from voting. If we vote, we can change the world. So everyone, thank you all for coming. Thank you so much for your time. Let me reiterate, no thrones!
No thrones!
No crown!
No crown!
No king!
No kings!
Let's change the world! Thank you all. Thank you.
Extraordinary times require extraordinary actions. And we are living at a very unusual and troubling times. These guys from ICE wearing masks, beating people, shooting them in cold blood in the United States without consequence. People, this goes way back 249 years.
For MS Now to cover that tiny protest on an overpass just tells you how pathetic today was for the left. I mean, let's think about it. Newsrooms have been getting smaller all across the country. MS Now has recently rebranded. They've spun off. They're no longer the powerhouse that they used to be. And so their resources are really limited, right? It's not as if they can send reporters and camera and crew to all these different protests. They have to pick and choose what they focus on. And one of the areas they focused on was that overpass. Why would you do that if there were huge successful rallies elsewhere? I really think that's one of the key indicators of how poorly today went for the Democrats. Now, they were advertising this in physical newspapers. Here is a full-page ad. We the people march again. No Kings, March 28. Maybe that's part of the reason why their turnout was so low. They're marketing, they're advertising on physical newspapers. Like, when was the last time you read or even touched a physical newspaper? I don't even know that I've touched one within the last decade. Maybe that's part of the reason why their target demographic are, all retired boomers. And no offense to anyone who's older and retired. I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you're watching. But it really is an interesting demographic at these protests because you don't have the diversity. You don't have younger voters involved. It seems to be an older crowd. It just raises the question, where's the energy? Where's the momentum? Where's the grassroots organization? These protests are a far cry from what we saw last year, and even those protests were a far cry from the Tea Party movement we saw in 2012. Now, that's not to say that there weren't any large protests today. The Flagship No Kings protest happened in Minneapolis or around St. Paul. It's hard to know which one. On MS Now, they were broadcasting it as Minneapolis, but people online were saying, that's not Minneapolis, that's St. Paul. There was a massive crowd there. I'm not going to deny that. It was tens of thousands of people, but just listen to what they say on MS Now and ask yourself, is this turnout actually for the No Kings protest, or did they turn out for something else?
State Capitol. State Capitol in St. Paul. There, of course, is a lot of security. There's about 300 police officers, state patrol here to make sure people are safe. And Jose, there are a lot of big names here that will be performing as well. We have Bruce Springsteen, we have Joan Baez, Maggie Rogers, Jane Fonda, the actress, will be here. We also have Bernie Sanders, who will be speaking, and of course, Governor Tim Walz. So
I mean, I don't know about you, but if one of my favorite artists was showing up giving essentially a free concert, and hey, there are multiple performers, I might show up even if I don't agree with what the protest is for. Who wouldn't want a free performance from a superstar? I mean, a free concert in today's economy? Sign me up. Well, Senator Mazie Hirono tweeted this on X. Donald Trump is not, never will be, and has never been a king. Hashtag no kings. Mazie, if President Trump is not a king, and if he has never been a king, then why are you protesting no kings? Why are you protesting against President Trump supposedly trying to turn this into an authoritarian state? It just makes no sense. You're debunking the very reason that you guys are supposedly protesting. It makes no sense here. So one of the craziest No Kings protests today actually happened in Atlanta. Now, you're going to notice just how insane these people are. But before you notice that, I do want to point out just how sparse the crowd is. Obviously, these people are standing at the very edge of the crowd, but just listen to the audio. You don't hear this massive crowd around them. And usually when there are large crowds, there are people coming to the crowd or walking away either because they're bored, leaving early, using the restroom. There's no foot traffic. So that in itself is indicative of just how small this crowd is. But I just wanted to point that out because your eyes will be drawn to the crazies on the screen. And no, this is not Mad Max.
In Atlanta, it's happening nationwide. No Kings. What does No Kings protest mean?
You know, I think it means that the Dow is over 50,000. So that's what we should be paying attention to right now, okay? But really, we're sick and tired of this administration and all the wrongs that they're doing. It makes us sick. Most American people feel the same way. We need to take to the streets and do something about it. We're out here making fun of these insane people that currently have power in the White House because you have to clown fascists. They hate it. It hurts their ego, and it gets people going.
Really weird. And the person in the wheelchair, a lot of people were like, someone should call George Miller, the guy who created and directed Mad Max, because, I mean, look, a Mad Max rage against the kings. Someone even put her on a poster, no kings, woke liberal mental patients on the loose. But as crazy as that wheelchair person looked, it got even crazier. You just have to see it to believe it. Yeah, the Doge Walker, you can see she's apparently the leader, and she has everyone else on a leash, and President Trump on his knees walking like a dog. It's just absolutely sick. And you combine this, for those of you who watched my last video where Governor Gavin Newsom was making sexual perverted jokes at Benny Johnson. By the way, this wasn't the first time. Don't forget, it was Newsom who was once selling knee pads because he said that leaders were getting down on their knees for President Trump. For whatever reason, the left side, the Democrats, they are obsessed with perverted things. They're obsessed with sexualizing everything. How do they think that that's a winning message? How do they think that that's normal? They say MAGA is a cult. They say that MAGA is weird. Maybe they should look in the mirror. Well, it wasn't just what was happening in Minneapolis and St. Paul. That one obviously was large. They called it the Flagship. But then it was also New York City. But that shouldn't be a surprise. New York City, of course, is one of the most densely populated areas of the country, if not one of the most densely populated areas in the entire world. So Harry Sisson, I mean, he's bragging, oh, this was such a large turnout. I mean, I could throw a parade for my cat. I could throw a parade for Drogon and probably get strangers to show up. How hard is it really to throw a protest in New York City?
All right, folks, I just made it to No Kings, New York City. As you can hear, it's very loud, and as you can see, it's very large. I've been to all 3 No Kings protests in New York City. Immediately, this one already looks like the biggest one. Let me show you.
Actually, sorry, Harry, it doesn't sound that large to me, and you can tell he's not holding a microphone, he's not wearing a lapel, he's just using his iPhone microphone, so it shouldn't be blocking out or canceling any noise. No, it did not sound that crazy. Now, he you know, showed you impressive shots of the crowd, but I want to show you another shot of the crowd that I guarantee influencers like Harry Sisson aren't showing you, because it really exposes just how deranged and radical the Democrats are becoming.
Working class revolution! Working class revolution!
Solution! There is only one solution! Communist revolution!
Communist revolution!
There is only one solution!
There is only one solution!
Got it. So they are protesting against kings, but they're pro-communism. Okay, someone please make this make sense. Now, the clearest example that this is all being astroturf, that many of these protests are perhaps being funded and encouraged by dark money, happened in North Carolina. But before we get to that, I would like to acknowledge the members of today's Governor's Club. They are Bunny Ralph, Young Smith, RFT, Jenny Rankin, Just Judy Peace Out, and McTrim. These are people who give super thanks and tips to the channel. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you enjoy it. Now, before we take a look at this clip, just pay attention to these signs. It would be one thing if they had poster board and they had drawn on it with markers. Cool, it's a cute, clever idea, whatever. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with the message on these posters, but it would be one thing, right, if this was truly organic. But I just wondered. It was obviously professionally, graphically designed and then printed out. Who is organizing and funding all of this? I think that's a good question. Yeah, and it just kept going on for a few city blocks, all of those printed out poster boards. So someone had to design it, and whoever designed it obviously had skill. It wasn't just some person putting something together on Canva. And then you can tell it was really nice poster board. And that stuff, I don't know if you guys have ever gone to Kinko's and FedEx to get something really nice printed out at that size, but it adds up. One is pretty expensive, let alone enough to go several city blocks. That is not pocket change. That's not something most people, no matter how politically active you are, would just willingly shell out for a few hours of a protest. So again, who is funding all of this? Where is the money come from? Well, Fox News Digital did a bit of a deep dive, and they found that there are 300 NGOs and nonprofit organizations funneling $3 billion to all of the various protest sites across the country. But still, that raises the question, what exactly or where exactly is that dark money coming from? It's been funneled through so many organizations and gone through so many layers that, you know, without perhaps the IRS or the government looking into it, it would probably be impossible for a normal person, even a media organization, to track all of it down. As always, though, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So why do you think the No Kings protest turnout today was lower than it was the other two times? Seriously, I'm trying to come up with a reason why turnout would be down so much, because you would think that it would actually be higher with all the attention that Minneapolis got and Minnesota got, with all of the attention on the Middle East, with rising gas prices. And look, I'm not saying that to try to slam President Trump, but I'm just saying there are a lot of issues you would think that more people would be upset about, especially on the left. You would think that that would really motivate and galvanize the base to show up. You would think that it could even attract some independents. I mean, just take a look at what people like Meghan Kelly and Tucker Carlson are saying, right? And so you would just think, with everything going on, that the ground is ripe, that the energy is there for a huge turnout, but we didn't see that today. So seriously, why the lower turnout compared to the other two times? What do you think is going on? I mean, if we're supposed to believe the polls say that President Trump is more unpopular than he's ever been, yet these protests are smaller than they ever been. Someone, please, make it make sense. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.